The morning the engagement dinner was announced, every employee at the prestigious Hawthorne Tower whispered about the same thing. Ethan Hawthorne, the only son of billionaire business legend Richard Hawthorne, was finally bringing home the woman he wanted to marry. Newspapers praised her beauty, business blogs admired her intelligence, and social media called her the future queen of the Hawthorne Empire. But Richard had built his fortune by trusting actions over appearances. Wealth had taught him one painful lesson. People often smiled at money, not at character. Before giving his blessing, he decided to discover who his son's fiancée truly was. Without telling anyone, the 70-year-old billionaire shaved his neatly trimmed beard into a rough stubble, wore faded clothes, slipped on worn-out boots, and took the place of an elderly gatekeeper at the entrance of his own estate. He wanted to see how the woman treated someone she believed had nothing. The mansion buzzed with preparations. Luxury cars arrived one after another, carrying executives, celebrities, and influential friends. Every guest walked past the old gatekeeper without giving him more than a quick glance. Some ignored him completely. Others frowned at the sight of his patched jacket. Richard simply smiled and opened the gate for everyone, quietly observing. Then, just before sunset, a modest blue sedan stopped outside. Emily Carter stepped out carrying a homemade apple pie instead of an expensive designer gift. She looked elegant but simple, wearing a light blue dress and comfortable shoes. Before walking toward the entrance, she noticed the elderly gatekeeper struggling to lift a heavy flower pot that had tipped over during the windstorm. Without hesitation, Emily placed the pie on the ground, rushed over, and gently helped him lift the pot back into place. "You shouldn't be carrying something this heavy by yourself," she said warmly. "Are you all right? Did you hurt your back?" Richard nodded with a weak smile. "I'm fine, miss, thank you." Emily dusted the dirt from his sleeve as if helping her own grandfather. "Please sit for a minute," she insisted. "People matter more than flowers." Richard was surprised. Most people would have worried about arriving late to impress the family. Emily seemed to care only about the tired old man standing before her. As she reached for her purse, Richard expected her to hand him money. Instead, she offered him a bottle of cold water and half of the sandwich she had packed for the drive. "You must have been working all day," she said. "Please eat something before it gets dark." Richard hesitated. "Wouldn't your future family think less of you if you're late?" Emily smiled gently. "If kindness makes me late, then I hope they're the kind of people who understand." Those simple words settled deeply in Richard's heart. Inside the mansion, the evening unfolded with elegance. Crystal chandeliers sparkled, while musicians played softly in the background. Ethan searched for Emily and found her quietly washing dirt from her hands in the kitchen sink. "Where have you been?" he asked with a laugh. "Dad's guests are waiting to meet you," Emily simply replied. "I met someone outside who needed a little help." Ethan smiled proudly, though he had no idea who she meant. Throughout dinner, Richard stayed out of sight, still dressed as the gatekeeper, watching through a security monitor. The guests praised luxury vacations, expensive watches, and stock prices. Emily listened politely, but became most interested when one of the housekeepers accidentally dropped an entire tray of dishes. The room fell silent. Before anyone else reacted, Emily stood up, knelt beside the embarrassed employee, and helped gather the broken pieces. She even apologized to the woman for the awkward silence everyone else had created. "Accidents happen," Emily whispered. "Please don't feel ashamed." The housekeeper's eyes filled with grateful tears. After dinner, Ethan proudly announced that his father wished to meet everyone in the grand ballroom. Guests eagerly gathered, expecting the billionaire to make a dramatic entrance. Minutes passed. Then the ballroom doors slowly opened. Instead of the famous businessman in a tailored suit, the old gatekeeper walked inside wearing the same dusty clothes. Confused, murmurs spread across the room. Some guests looked offended. Others thought security had made a mistake. Ethan stared in complete disbelief. The elderly man stepped onto the stage. Slowly, he removed the worn cap from his head, wiped away the fake wrinkles, and straightened his posture. Gasps echoed through the ballroom, as everyone recognized Richard Hawthorne. Silence covered the room like a blanket. Richard looked directly at Emily, whose expression showed only surprise, not embarrassment. "My friends," Richard began, his voice trembling slightly. "Today I wasn't looking for elegance, education, or beauty. The world already told me my sons. Fiancée possessed all those things. I wanted to know how she treated someone who could offer her nothing." He paused, looking toward the entrance where Emily had helped him hours earlier. "Many people walked past me today. Some refused to make eye contact. Some acted as though I didn't exist. But one young woman stopped. She gave me her time before giving this family her attention. She offered me food before introducing herself to billionaires. She treated an old gatekeeper with the same respect she gave everyone else." Emily lowered her eyes, overwhelmed by the unexpected praise. Richard stepped down from the stage and stood before her. His voice cracked as he continued. "When my wife was alive, she always said that true wealth isn't measured by what fills your bank account. It's measured by how people feel after meeting you." Tears welled in his eyes. "Today, for the first time since losing her, I felt like I heard her voice again. Through your kindness." The room grew completely silent as Richard embraced Emily like a daughter. Tears rolled down his weathered face. Ethan had never seen his father cry, not when billion-dollar deals collapsed. Not when competitors betrayed him. Not even during difficult business crises. But the quiet compassion of one ordinary young woman had broken through years of emotional walls. Richard reached into his pocket and removed a small silver key. "This belonged to my late wife," he said. "She always planned to give it to the person she believed would protect this family's heart. Not just its fortune. Emily, if you will accept it, I'd like you to have it." Emily accepted the key with trembling hands. But instead of focusing on the precious heirloom, she hugged Richard tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "But the greatest gift you've given me isn't this key. It's trusting me enough to call me family." Many guests quietly wiped away tears. Even the housekeepers and gardeners, standing near the back of the ballroom, smiled through watery eyes. In that unforgettable moment, expensive jewelry, luxury cars, and billion-dollar investments meant nothing. What mattered was a simple act of humanity at a front gate. Months later, after Ethan and Emily were married, one tradition never changed. Every holiday, Emily personally welcomed every employee, gardener, cleaner, driver, and security guard before greeting the VIP guests. She remembered every name, celebrated birthdays, and often shared meals with those who worked behind the scenes. Richard watched proudly, knowing his greatest inheritance would never be written in financial statements. Because in the end, riches can build mansions, buy companies, and fill bank accounts. But only kindness can build a family, heal a broken heart, and leave a legacy that money can never purchase. The greatest test in life is not how we treat people who can change our future, but how we treat those who seem unable to offer us anything at all. And sometimes, one small act of compassion becomes the reason someone believes in humanity again.